The church is beautifully crafted mass of cut stone and bricks, which highlight the facade details. This became the archetypal style of the Philippine church during the Spanish period. The facade is divided horizontally and vertically into sections. Its lowest horizontal section has the main portal with a semicircular opening and wooden doors at the center. There is a much larger opening than those at both sides, which are also semicircular. The carved emblem of the Dominican order is set in place of the keystone. Two niches flank the main entrance. Each section of this level is divided by twin brick columns. The middle level is divided into 5 sections with fenestrations in each, separated by pilasters. The central opening is larger than the 4 other windows, with the leftmost and rightmost windows in a lower position than the other 3. Both side windows rest on the cornice of the first level. Below the central portion on the stretch of space separating the cornice of the lower portion from the upper is a rectangular molding. The highest level is the triangular pediment, divided as well into 5 sections, with pilasters separating each section. The central panel of the pediment has semicircular niche held up by a winged cherub. Inside the blind alcove are the statues of the 2 saints. On both sides of the central section are 2 oculi, or round windows. Topping the pediment is a heart-shaped molding surmounted by a statue. Twin scroll buttresses flank the lowest portion of the facade, and chunky pyramidal finials embellish the twin rounded pilasters at the facade right and left sides. The 5-story bell tower adjoins the right side of the church. The bell tower levels are graduated, with each defined by a cornice. Each story is smaller than the previous. Both blind and open windows, as well as the edges of the octagonal levels, are defined by brick sides. The corners of the octagonal sides are topped by pyramidal finials. The bell tower has a dome rooftop by a cross. The church was declared a National Cultural Treasure in 1972. Excellently restored, the church in Calasiao gives a maximum credit to its present stewards and parishioners who share a deep sense of history and aesthetic sensibility. Just one look at it, and surely the viewer is taken in by its elegant beauty and at once inspiring and ennobling. What happens next is an invitation to history and perhaps an encounter with the one and only source of eternal beauty. Towards the latter part of the 17th century, the Dominican provincial chapter placed the parish of Calasiao, derived from Calasian, which means a place of lightnings, under the patronage of St. Paul. However, from 1621 onwards, it became parish of Saints Peter and Paul, presumably because a newer and bigger church was erected. Father Juan Maldonado de San Pedro Martin was the town's first parish priest. In 1773, Bishop Miguel Garcia de Nueva Segovia chose town of Calasiao as the site of diocesan synod in compliance with a ruling of the Provincial Council of Manila 1771, which had provided in its acts that diocesan bishops should conduct diocesan synods to better implement church decrees according to records. Calasiao was selected because it was centrally located, as well as to indicate that the church and the convent at the time had already risen from the ruins. Later, in 1804, a new church of 3 naves, measuring 89 varas in length, 22 in width, and 18 in height, with 2 rows of windows, was built. It had also a bell tower, older than the church itself, but unfortunately, in 1841 or 1842, this church was leveled to the ground once again. The church was rebuilt a little later by Father Ramon Dalmau with the cooperation with his parishioners. But before this church was fully completed, it was burned once more in 1852. Father Ramon Suarez rebuilt the church between 1853 until 1858. When the last Dominican vicar, Father Bonifacio Probanza, left Calasiao in 1898, the Church of Saints Peter and Paul was reputed to be the richest church in ornaments and in the entire Pangasinan. During the American era, secular priests had taken over as administrators of the parish. The church was renovated when it hosted the Christ the King event in 1936. In 1945, the cathedral and the Archbishop Palace from Lingayen temporarily transferred to Calasiao because the one in Lingayen had been destroyed during the war. Thus, for 3 years, Calasiao had this singular privilege. People considered miraculous the fact that during the liberation, 3 bombs were thrown in the direction of the church and convent, but these bombs failed to explode, thus saving both structures. The church suffered from the earthquake of July 16, 1990. Its belfry was totally destroyed so that a new one exactly like the original was constructed. All the antique statues had been cleaned and restored as well as the ceiling's original, eye-catching moral motif. Recently, the church acquired full automatic bells or chimes, which can be heard within 7 or 8 kilometer radius if there's no atmospheric disturbances. Donated by a generous soul, the high-tech bells ring in Angelus 3 times a day and other various hymns, as well as Christmas carols. The antique bell shall be preserved inside a small tower. Any visitors who goes up the staircase leading to the 2nd floor of the convent does not fail to notice an oil painting of Father Luis Gondulio in a prayerful mood. Records reveal that Father Gondulio, when he was assigned in Pangasinan, worked in Calasiao and became vicar of Binalatungan or San Carlos in the early 17th century. His apostolic seal was exemplary, visiting men and women in the remotest areas just to be able to attend to their spiritual needs. He was also known to be a mystic, conversing intimately with God or his saints in the conversation of souls. In fact, Father Gondulio had been instrumental in softening the initial resistance of the natives of Pangasinan to evangelization. That his presence and influence continues to hold sway is not an underestimate. The largely conservative parishioners have proven quite supportive of parish concerns. With a dominantly young population, Calasiao Parish had taken steps to ensure the youth involvement. The Catholic Youth Movement, which was introduced by Monsignor Luis Biongzon in Pangasinan, is very active. Among its activities are the regular seminars held in the parish to awaken the youth's role and relationship with themselves, with their families and friends, and with the community, the choir, the catechetical work, the social apostolate. Indeed, the parish can count on its young blood to sustain the renewal of faith among parishioners. After the Second World War, Father Juan Bello became parish priest, followed by Fathers Benigno Sirafica, Jose Ferrer, Monsignor Oscar Aquino, Bishop Jesus Cabrera, Monsignor Luis Ongzon, and the present Reverend Father Jose Carino as team moderator, and ably assisted by Reverend Father Rolando Salusagcol as the member of the team ministry. According to Monsignor Luis Ongzon, in an interview with him, he pointed out that the hole on the 2nd floor of the convent through which the plague victims in the 17th and 18th centuries were blessed. This was done so that the priest would not be directly exposed to the virus. The hole has since then been sealed, but the outline is still visible. Another interesting anecdote to share is that the church's large wooden floors on the 2nd floor were used as setting for the movie Mga Kwento ni Lola Basyang, the Sleeping Beauty episode.